Welcome to CEO Corner. As a partner in 360 Search recruitment services in Ireland and the UK, I'm always interested in understanding the psychological drivers behind the success of CEOs. I would like to introduce Sharon CEO of LeasePlan, and what an incredible journey Sharon has been on. From a young age, Sharon was destined to be in the motor industry. Her father was one of the first Volkswagen dealerships in the country. Cars were in her blood. And 40 years ago, being a woman in such a male-dominated industry was unheard of. Sharon secured her career with a role in a car rental company, Johnson & Perrott, in which she set up the leasing wing in Dublin. In 1996, Sharon wanted to compete. She sought investment from banks, but ultimately it was the conversation with LeasePlan that led to LeasePlan acquiring 51% of fleet management services, servicing 1,600 cars on the road then to 21,000 now. And not only that, Sharon, in the middle of it all, had 4 children and raised a family, as well as building a successful career. It's not every day they get the opportunity to understand the psychological mindset and drivers of such a formidable career woman. Welcome to CEO Corner. Sharon, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for asking me.
I would like to start, firstly, have to ask, what are your favourite cars? Your favourite brand of cars, should I say?
Okay, well that's a tricky one because I drive everything from a Mini to a Maybach, from petrol to diesel to electric, so I have to know what's on the market. So I don't really have a favourite, but I drive a Range Rover Sport, so I must really like that.
Okay, yeah, but I like the Range Rover as well. And Sharon, I'd love to learn about your journey, the steps that brought you to the point where you decided, yes, now's the time for me to set up my own business.
Okay, well, when I left school, I think motor was in my blood. I came from a motoring family. My father started off as a mechanic, then he set up the Ansley Motor Company and became the first Volkswagen, Audi and Mercedes dealer in Ireland. Loved cars, and that's what I wanted to do. Yeah. I was one of 8 kids, and at the tail end of the family with 2 boys and 6 girls, and it was a complete no-no 40 years ago. Left school, did a very good leaving cert, and they really wanted me to go on a different journey, be in the bank, teacher, whatever, not a motor trader. And I said, look, I really want it, and basically they wouldn't give me a job. So I got a job more or less the week I left school with Johnson & Perrott, which was a fantastic company, Cork company, established in 1810, and I went up and I started in car hire in Dublin Airport. Had a green uniform, a nice car, and then I set up their leasing company in Dublin. Kind of a standalone, working with another girl, 2 of us ran it. Leasing was a big thing then. Woodchester had come into the market. It was relatively new to the Irish market, and I worked for them for about 12 years. And in the meantime, I had married a motor trader as well. And after 12 years, RTE came to me and offered me a job to present the motor show, which is a very watered down version of, say, Top Gear with Donald Byrne, who's Gabriel Byrne's brother. And got to test drive everything, got to go to Formula One. It was a really fabulous job. So I did that for 2 seasons. And then with a view to setting up my own leasing company. The owner of Johnson & Perrott at the time wanted to invest in it, but we didn't really need an investor. So set up the fleet management services, which pioneered fleet management in Ireland originally. And then we set up a leasing company and plodded away at that for several years until we got to around 2,000 cars. And in 1996, the banks started to go into our business, and some of the big leasing companies were looking at Ireland. So we knew that if we were to keep up, that we needed a strong partner, we needed funding to be competitive, and we needed good systems. And coincidentally, at the same time, LeasePlan came into Ireland looking to set up a greenfield operation. And they came, they researched the whole of Ireland and the markets. They looked at contract hire companies, they looked at dealers, they looked at manufacturers. And I'll never forget, one day I was in my office and these 2 gorgeous looking hunks came into, 2 Dutch guys, tall, blonde, really good looking, came in and said, look, we got your name from the Society of the Irish Motor Industry. And I listened to them and I said, now you've got half an hour because I'm meeting my girlfriends for lunch. And they came in and they said, you know, this is what we do in the world. And I said, well, look, if you're really looking for fleet management, well then we're the suitable partner. Yeah. I mean, if you want a dealer or a manufacturer, that's different, but we're the only fleet management company. So if you're looking for that, you'll be back to me. So about 3 months later, they phoned me and they said, Mr. Buckley, you are right. You are who we want to do business with. And they came in, and we were very young at the time. We didn't want to sell the business yet. So they bought 51% of us. And I stayed in as the MD of LeasePlan, and I had to stay in for 5 years. So I did the first 5 years, and then another 5 years, and another 5 years. And everybody said that you'd never go from owning your own company to working for a big bank. And at that stage, LeasePlan was owned by ABN AMRO Bank, a Dutch bank. They sold it to Volkswagen Bank. And after the 5 years, we were the only private shareholding in the group. So they came to us and they bought the remaining shareholding, and they gave us the full value, full earn-out and everything, and I stayed on as the MD.
Excellent. Wow, that's an incredible story. And I didn't realise you were one of 8 children.
One of 8.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that I can only imagine your childhood. And when you were growing up, did you always want to own your own business, or did you show signs of leadership, trying to survive in a household with 8 siblings, no doubt?
No, I actually, when I was growing up, I thought I wanted to be a teacher.
Okay.
But I loved cars. I mean, as soon as I was 17, I got my first car. It was a Beetle, 4318 RI, and I remember it. I think it was 400 quid, and it was red. And I remember going down the harbour in Skerries with about 9 girls in it when our leaving results came out.
Back.
So I was always into cars, and I was very close to my father. And I used to go into the garage, into the Ansley. So, yeah.
And I guess when you set up Fleet Management Services, you know, what was the vision for the business? Did you envisage it becoming the scale that it is, or, you know, ultimately becoming LeasePlan?
Absolutely not. And I was talking to some of my team yesterday, and to be honest, if I knew then what I know now, it would have terrified me.
Okay.
And you know, we worked not far from here down at Crescent Hall, you know, at the Peppercaster Church, and it was new customers, new products, a new partner, a whole way, a new way of doing business, and new systems, everything. And it would have scared me if I knew what the whole concept was about.
Yeah.
But I suppose baby steps.
Yeah.
I fell into it, and then we started off 2,000 cars, then we got to 5,000, then it was 10 years, 10,000, and even now we're just at 22,000, and it's just like, it's just blown out of the water.
Wow, that's brilliant. And over the course of your career then, Sharon, what are the most or standout lessons that you've learned in leadership? The
tone at the top is very important.
Okay.
You've got to love what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, people ask me all, you know, what should I do? And I had a friend who came to me whose daughter was in business and she wanted to be a nurse. And they said, would you please speak to her and try and discourage her? And I said, absolutely not. Nursing is a vocation, if that's what her passion and her love is. So I think, you know, the tone at the top is very important, leadership, and really loving what you do.
Yeah.
Because I've 2 families. I've got my family and I've my work family.
Yeah, that's an excellent way to put it. And over the years, building the career that you have, do you feel that there's been any sacrifices, or you've had to make serious sacrifices to get to the top, to achieve what you've achieved?
Well, absolutely, and particularly being a woman going into the business, you know, 40 years ago, it was very chauvinistic. It was frowned upon. And I remember the motor trade have a dinner in February, and in the Burlington with 900 men. And I remember the first year I went there, and I was like a leper. I mean, it was so frowned on that even my own partner in the business didn't want to be beside me. Wow. And I just said, no, breaking this mold. I'm equally as good as them. You know, my fleet is in excess of theirs. It was a very, very difficult trade to participate in. You had to be much better than anybody else, more credible, more hardworking. And then once you broke the mold, customers got comfortable, got more secure, but it was very, very difficult.
Yeah, I know, and you know, like the sense of confidence that you need to walk into a room with 900, mainly men, you know, like hats off to you. Another trend that I see with CEOs at the moment is there's a huge shift and focus on managing yourself, your mental health, and also your physical health. How do you look after that side of your life?
Well, Sarah, I'm an early riser. I get up at the crack of dawn. I have an abundance of energy.
Good.
I keep very fit. I probably exercise 4 or 5 times a week. I love horses. I row. I recently rowed the Thames, and I'm
Wow.
I'm not that young. I row in skerries. I cycle. I've cycled to the Wicklow 200. That was probably the greatest challenge. It took me 12 hours to do it. So all my life I've kept fit.
Okay. Yeah.
And I am healthy.
Good.
I did lose my spleen in a riding accident, so I'm careful about infection and my immune system, and I feel that because of that I really have to keep fit even more so now.
Yeah. I think the better you feel, the better you perform. Like, I really do believe. And you are extremely successful and accomplished in your career, and how do you find more and more to satisfy that ambitious side of your personality?
Well, in LeasePlan, life's never boring.
Okay.
You get up in the morning, you never know what's ahead of you. And when people come over from our head office, and we're in 33 different countries, we're massive in the world, but when they come over, they always say, how did you develop this strong culture? How have you had the same management team since 1996? And, we've gone from the Celtic Tiger. We've gone from boom to bust. We've experienced, a property crisis, a credit crisis, Brexit, which really impacts our business, then COVID. So, we've got hundreds of years of experience between us all on the management team. Yeah. And it's never boring. The passion and the love and the empathy we have for the business is still the same as when we owned it.
Great.
And I think that's what you have to have.
Yeah, no, I can sense that from you for sure. One of the things that you didn't mention when we spoke a couple of days ago was the fact that you work with the same management team now as you did when you set up the business. That is not a common thing that I hear in the industry. And do you have a secret recipe? I know definitely culture and passion, but how do you retain talent, people that you don't want to let go of?
I asked them that yesterday.
Good.
And they said, well, Sharon, you have to give yourself some credit. You never ask us to do something that you don't do yourself. Again, I think that the tone at the top, behaviour breeds behaviour. I've got energy, they've got energy. Now, we have great crack. I've got a team, we go on trips together, we work hard together, we love when we get a new deal. In fact, and we even prefer more holding on to a customer than a new one in the door, because a customer that you've had for years and years, you hate to lose. Relationships are critical. Relationships, whether it's with your staff, your suppliers, the manufacturers. We've just recently done our CLS scoring, and again, we were the best in the whole family of LeasePlan in terms of our clients, our drivers, and our integrity survey within our staff. So I'm as proud of that as I am of the business and winning a deal.
It's the foundations of the business.
But a lot of it is that you lead by example.
Yeah, good. When we're talking about comfort zone and pushing yourself beyond comfort zone, I think to achieve and get to the top is something that somebody needs to do. I know certainly in my career I've felt at points a sense of doubt or maybe even negativity, or even sometimes going into situations maybe lacking in confidence. Reflecting through your career, how have you managed doubt or situations where you've managed negative internal emotions?
I've always had a good team around me. And if I was lacking in finance, because I come from a sales background, I have an amazing finance director who I talk to and who I listen to. My people are entrepreneurs, they're full of great ideas. A problem shared is a problem halved, So I have to put a lot of emphasis to the team that I work with.
Surround yourself with
with
people
good
you
people.
trust.
But I have had insecurities. I mean, you have to remember, in our business, we have to predict, our risk is predicting what cars are going to be worth in 3 and 4 years' time. And anything can happen. So we had a big shift from petrol to diesel. We didn't see that coming. Now we have diesel to electric. So, you know, it's, and you know, you multiply that risk by 22,000 vehicles, of course you're worried.
Yeah, wow. How do you manage those pressures? How do you manage the pressures coming at you, such a large scale business, you know, day in, day out, and no doubt all directions?
I think experience has given me that. I'm a long time in the business, you know. There's nothing that I haven't really experienced. And again, the team as well, a lot of them are motor traders. They come with a huge abundance of, and we've been able to cope with anything that's hit us.
Wow, that's excellent. And there's a lot of talk at the moment, and companies that I work with, especially HR departments and business leaders, there's a huge amount of work around gender. It's extremely topical. How have you, or has gender been a feature, no doubt, in a male-dominated industry through your career?
It has, and there's been more and more females have come into the motor industry. In LeasePlan now, we're 50-50. Diversity is a huge topic in LeasePlan Corporation. It's great to have a big global company because people come into me for training. Some of my people have gone to the UK, have gone to Holland, have gone to Portugal, New Zealand, Australia, and it's great to be able to share that.
Yeah.
So diversity and gender, it's you know, it's great. I've got somebody in their 80s working for me.
Wow.
So
what do they do?
They speak to customers on the phone about
Excellent.
the mechanics of the car because they're and my customers love them.
So it's a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
You share the knowledge.
Yeah. No voicemail, no
Wow.
call forwarding. They want to talk to somebody about their problems.
Wow. And it's good to hear that it's 50-50 now in the gender split.
It is.
100%, I'm seeing more and more companies that are starting to even out. I think women are gaining more confidence to actually put themselves forward for promotions, and you know, it's really down to the individual themselves, and as you say, leadership from the top. Thinking about personalities, do you, when you meet people, or do you have a sense of characteristics within a personality that you think, okay, I like them and they potentially will make a good leader, or is there characteristics you think that a person needs to be a strong leader?
It's funny that you say that because everybody who comes into LeasePlan, they go through the whole interview process and they all have to meet me at the end.
Okay.
You know, whether it's for, you know, on the very entry level or whether it's for an accountant. And my team would say to me that my greatest asset is my nose and my gut. And that's why they always meet me at the end, and I got that from my father. I think I have a good nose, and I always say to people, you know, are they a lease planner?
Yeah, needs to fit.
And they have to fit, and they have to fit into this work family. So it's really important, and I've really protected that.
Good. And you mentioned your father. I know he's been a pivotal part in your life. Speaking of mentors, do you feel that a person on their journey to building their career could benefit from a mentor, or do you see value in somebody taking up mentorship?
Well, I have mentored a few people, and what I would say is, yes, it is a good idea. I think you have to use the mentor, not only just for advice, but also to be, you know, frank, for their contacts, if you want to open doors, bounce ideas off. So I do think it's a good thing. Okay,
good. And I also, just around goals and goal setting. So I think I've been reading a lot about goals recently, and I know that when you're looking at setting up a business, you can have the greatest ideas in the world, but really it comes down to the action and the delivery. Do you have any advice for those that are in the ideas phase or the planning phase of setting up a business and haven't quite managed to action it yet?
Well, first of all, have a good plan.
Okay.
Because I remember doing up with PwC, it was our plan, our business plan for when we set out. And make sure that the figures, they stack up and that you stick to the plan. You know what you have to do, whether it's you've got to sell 500 units and you've got to keep your cost of that, but have a plan. And make sure it's what you want to go into and that you love it, and then you've got to work hard, work really hard. I know when I was starting out, and I'm not proud of this, but I wasn't able to take maternity leave.
Okay.
It's not something that I recommend, but in those days and in the motor industry, your job wouldn't have been there if you took a year off or whatever. So you have to make sacrifices, you have to work hard, and like I said, you have to love what you do.
Yeah, well, that's a big commitment.
Yeah, yeah.
And how has business been in the current climate for LeasePlan? And are you experiencing, some industries are affected more than others. How has the business been for LeasePlan, and how have you managed your own mindset and that of your team through a challenging market?
It's been a great learning experience. Things happened very fast, as you know. So the first thing was the health and safety of our staff. And we put a plan in place very quickly, actually about 10 days before the whole thing erupted. That was to work from home. Now, we are an IT company. We do have huge experience in IT. So we had everybody working remotely before the government said it was better to stay at home. And then in terms of the office, we were able to use other floors in the building. So Great. We had temperature gauges, we have lots of PPE. Where there were pods with 4 people there, we had 1. Because remember, we are essential services.
Yeah.
But what we do is we had to keep the public sector on the road. We had to keep food companies on the road. We had to keep their cars legal, taxed, breakdowns, crashes. Wow. So, and doing that remotely and from home took 4 times the effort that it would in the office. But thank God we did. We're delivering the post. We are, delivering the telephone lines, and so it was critical. Yeah,
so much going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You don't realise. Do you have any advice for leaders that are struggling during this time to manage their business or manage their team, or maybe even managing their own mental health?
Well, I have friends in the business and I can see them struggling, and they've had to let staff go. I think the government have been great in the payment plans. The usual things: cut your costs, keep everything to a bare minimum. I think there's light at the end of the tunnel now. Look, we're all, hopefully there won't be another lockdown. The vaccine is coming next week to the UK, a few weeks to us. And if they've survived till now, it's been very tough.
Yeah, I know. Well, thank you. I have a couple of quick fire rounds, questions to wrap it up. So, what car are you driving now? I think you already answered that.
So the Range Rover, because I need a tow bar, and as you know yourself, coming in sometimes on the M50, we've had snow, we've had ice.
Yeah.
I feel secure in it.
And comfy.
Yeah, very comfortable.
And who do you admire most in the world, and why?
Well, that's a tricky one, because I have no one person. My education was very important to me, my teachers, my father, and having so many older siblings, they had a huge influence on me as well. My kids have been amazing. They've put up with a working mother. They've ended up with the same work ethic as me.
Good. So
they're understanding. So I really admire them for putting up with me. And I don't think they would even see me now not working. They're so used to it,
Yeah.
So I admire all of those people. But really for me, it's, the most important is, family, friends, health.
Great. And what advice do you have for those that are chasing that top slot or chasing the career slot, but haven't quite managed to figure out how to get there?
Work ethic is very important. When somebody comes into LeasePlan, I always say, if you're good, you'll be spotted. So work hard, look around, see where your niche is, go for it.
Great.
And ask for it. Hard work, empathy, go that extra mile. That's the advice I'd give.
That's excellent advice. Thank you, Sharon. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Sarah.